I gotta say, this sneaks up on me every single year. First week in February, and we're already into the final stretch of the Big Ten schedule for Penn State wrestling. Nittany Lions dominated is the right word, winning 29-12 over Nebraska, another top 10 team. We'll get into all of that today. It just wasn't 51-0 as it was the last couple of weeks. So it's like the standard for domination for Penn State wrestling feels like it's so very high. But that's kind of what we're talking about on the show today, recapping that, rankings update, and of course previewing the next weekend in Penn State wrestling against the Wolverines. And the guy who's going to get you through all that, get you the information, Greg Pickel, wrestling reporter at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Greg, welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here as always.
T. Frank, good to be with you. Yeah, it's a perfect way you started the show. 26-12, actually, the final score for Penn State, Nebraska. But to your point, it felt leaving the Bryce Jordan Center, walking through the crowd to go down to Cael Sanderson's news conference, that Penn State fans were, I don't know if disappointed is the right word, but certainly a little buzz, if you will, just about the fact that Penn State maybe didn't wrestle its best. And then later, after that, when Cael Sanderson talked, he said that maybe they were flat and that you're not going to be at your best every night. And that's true. And Penn State still beat a top 10 team 26-12 and won 7 of 10 bouts along the way, including one they lost in tiebreaker that certainly could have went their way. And then obviously a loss at 141 that we'll get into here in a minute. But yeah, it's a time of year where I think Penn State fans forget that almost invariably somewhere at the end of January or early February, Penn State has a match like this where Penn State wins. But to your point, it was not 51-0 or 46-3 or some other wide point spread margin we've talked about previously here on the show. And so Penn State fans say, what's going on? What happened? And it's just the way that this process has worked for this team for so many years to ramp up for the national tournament, which we know is the only focus this team has. Anything it does along the way is just gravy, just bells and whistles, so to speak. It's all about the national tournament. So, yeah, Penn State beats Nebraska, won 7-10, and got out of the BJC with a victory.
So, and a lot of these, I think, went the way you predicted they would go on last Thursday when we did the show. Let's just dive right into it. Let's get to Luke Littledahl, start at 125. Starts out hot for Penn State wrestling, and I feel like that's a very important thing for Penn State to have that kind of anchor in the first half of the duel. So, what happened there for Penn State? How did he get them out to such a hot lead?
Yeah, so I had Littledahl winning by major decision, and I said on the show last week and also said in the article over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com that I have a feeling that this is going to be the one, and it turned out actually a few were wrong, that he was going to win by more than a major decision, and he did. He beat Alan Kohler. Nebraska has been kind of flip-flopping at 125. Penn State, of course, has the top-ranked wrestler in the country. Beat him 20-4 pretty handy in 5:36 there in the second period. So a good match for him. And then Marcus Blaze came out and wrestled very well in a top 10 matchup against Jacob Van D. He won that 5-1 by decision, which brought us to 141, T. Frank, which is, I guess, the first hiccup, if you will. We did predict that Penn State would lose this match, Brock Hardy against Braden Davis. Didn't see it happening the way it did. I actually watched this morning, T. Frank. If you are listening to this now, but we're watching the BWI live show this morning where the guys talked about Penn State football losing receivers coach Noah Pauley to the Packers. I was in the middle of rewatching this match when I saw something on my phone. I thought, what does that say? And then I had to pause it and deal with Noah Pauley leaving. And then went back to watching this match again. But Braden Davis came out with his hair on fire. He led this match early with a couple of takedowns and looked to be potentially on his way to a victory. And obviously there in the second period, he had to have a stoppage point. So if you noticed, and it wasn't necessarily all that clear live, but if you noticed, he had a Band-Aid wrap on his right thumb, which we found out when Cael Sanderson spoke to reporters on Wednesday of this week, that he had some sort of incident at home with a scooter, that he basically burned his hand, and I guess he had a blister or something tied to that, which is why his hand was wrapped. Anyway, he had a stoppage to get that fixed with about 36 seconds to go in the second period. They come out of that, and he's in on a shot, and Brock Hardy, with one of the reasons why he's been so successful is that he's able to pick up on advantageous situations. Braden Davis got a little too deep and got his head in a really bad spot. Hardy cradled him, and that was that. He pinned him. Belly tapped Braden Davis a couple of times. Braden Davis did not like that, kind of kicked Hardy away, which led to Penn State losing a team point. And that was the end of 141 in the first 3 matches in this Penn State-Nebraska duel. But Cael Sanderson called it an unfortunate situation afterwards. There's no indication, I should probably know, T. Frank, that Braden Davis wouldn't be available for Michigan because of this, burnt hand. There was no indication of that during Cael Sanderson's news conference with reporters in State College on Wednesday. So don't expect any lineup changes there at the moment, but certainly was a part of that match, and now he looks to rebound this weekend.
149, you got Shane Van Ness, which was the start of a run, which, of course, if it starts at 149 and goes all the way to 197, you're probably going to be in good position. But give us the recap of what happened at 149 with Van Ness.
Yeah, Shane Van Ness won that match 12-5 over Chance Lamer. I thought he had opportunity, obviously, and I'm sure Penn State coaches, Penn State fans, and of course Shane Van Ness himself thought he had a chance to get a major decision in that match. Was not meant to be. So Van Ness still a top-ranked wrestler in the country, but I just think there's another, in some matches anyway, there's another gear there, and he does not need to find that gear now. He needs to find it in March. So they'll keep working on that. Obviously, he is the top-ranked wrestler in the country for a reason, and there's I think, sizable gap between him and the field at 149, but it's not an inseparable one. I would say that. Even when Caleb Henson for Virginia Tech opted for a redshirt year, that put Van Ness in a tier of his own. But at times the way he's wrestled this year, I don't think that maybe the gap is as big as I thought it would be. With that said, he's still the prohibitive favorite long-term to win both Big Tens and Nationals at 149. So 157, that was the, I think, longest bout of the night, T. Frank. We talked about that at length last week during the Thursday BWI wrestling show, that Antrell Taylor versus PJ Duke was going to be a classic. Duke beat him in the U.S. Senior World Team Trials last year, and Taylor got him back this time around. A close match. I think Penn State fans probably wanted stalling called on Taylor. Whether or not it should have been, is probably up to your interpretation. But anyway, we can debate that another day. We only have so long here, and that's a long conversation. But at any rate,
Penn State fans wanted a lot of stalling calls on Saturday.
Yeah, you were there.
We
should have mentioned that. You were there for the match. You were enjoying the action. Yes.
It was a good time. It was the Penn State fans in the stands are very knowledgeable, but one thing that I noticed is they absolutely wanted everything to be stalling.
Yeah, and I didn't think that, and I don't know who the head official was. We never got his name, but I didn't think he had the best match, quite honestly, especially with stalling. Cael Sanderson noted afterwards they don't always call it the way they used to. That was certainly true in the Duke-Taylor match at some other points as well. But didn't think this was necessarily the best officiated match of the season. Yeah. But either way.
There was also a challenge here in this one as well, right? That was the whether or not Duke
in the first
got a takedown.
Period, yes. Yeah,
and
honestly,
didn't go their way.
Yeah, honestly, live, I thought PJ Duke had done enough to secure a 3-point takedown. Certainly would have changed the way this match unfolded from there. Wasn't awarded. Cael Sanderson noting afterwards that the reaction time rule in college wrestling is such that, he thought live, as I did, that it was a takedown, but then when you watch the replay, I think he regretted throwing the challenge brick there. They could have used it later on, I think, without question. But it is what it is. You have one, you lose it, you're done. So this match goes to rideouts, and Taylor's able to escape in the first tiebreaker period and then ride PJ Duke for the remainder of the second 32nd period, to win that bout by decision 2-1. So, hey, PJ Duke will learn from it. You can't lose a title in March, and certainly, I know a lot of Penn State fans, including the wrestler himself, obviously, was hoping to go undefeated in his freshman season. It's tough to do in the Big Ten. It's really tough to do in the Big Ten. And you get a guy like Taylor, who is a veteran that knows what he's doing, and he finds a way to, beat you in tiebreaker. So we'll see how that goes if they would meet again for a rubber match, but certainly was not enough for Nebraska to overcome Penn State, but was one of the predictions we got wrong.
Mitchell Messenbrink at 165, absolute machine-like performance, it felt like, in this one. So take us through this one.
Yeah, number 7, LJ Rahu, beat him 20-5. Mitchell Messenbrink did by technical fall, went the distance, 7 minutes, which is not too common for Messenbrink to need a full 7 minutes to tech fall somebody, but I think he was looking for to work on some stuff, so he just kept doing what he needed to do and didn't end up getting a fall, but did what he needed to do to continue his bonus point streak and specifically his technical fall streak so far this season. So a very easy and expected win there for Penn State at 165. 174 was a good match. Christopher Minto, Levi Haynes, that was a top 5 showdown we talked about on last week's show. Haynes beats him 8-6 at 174 to continue Penn State's what would be a run of victories to heavyweight in the Penn State-Nebraska match. But that was maybe a little bit closer than I thought it would be, but good test for Levi Haynes at this point of the season, and he answered it with flying colors. So 8-6 on the decision there, rather. You get into 184 then. Rocco Welsh took out Silas Allred in a match that, I thought Welsh wrestled very, very well. Maybe even better than I thought he was going to. And so that was an impressive win for him at 184. 197, Josh Barr took out Camden McDaniel. Only surprise there, T. Frank, he did not tech fall him for the third time in their careers, rather. Got close at the end, but gave up a late takedown that took that opportunity off the board. And then in 285, we'll wrap up there. AJ Ferrari beat Colmir Sola 2-1 in a match that I don't know if it was necessarily as close as the final score indicates. Ferrari, rides out the third. And, good learning experience for Colmir Sola. We've talked about it, that guys that are a little bit bigger than him, more experienced, are going to have an edge at times. And that's all the difference in a 2-1 match, especially at heavyweight. So good learning experience for him. Another test coming up for him this weekend with another top 5 ranked wrestler. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, so let's get into the rankings here, because that's, the result of some of these things is not changing where guys are, but I wanted to just quickly go down through this and see what you see from the latest rankings coming out after the win.
Yeah, quite frankly, not a whole heck of a lot, to be honest with you, changed this week. So Penn State continues to have top-ranked wrestlers with Luke Lildahl at 125, Shane Van Ness at 149, Messenbrink, Haynes, Welsh, and Barr at 165 through 197. And everyone is inside, at least depending on who y'all look at this point, the top 15. Marcus Blaze is number 4 at 133. Davis is 12th at 141. He didn't move at all after that loss. PJ Duke dropped a spot in the Intermat rankings to 4th from 3rd after losing to Taylor. No big deal there. And Colmir Sola stayed at number 12 in Intermat's latest ranking. So, yeah, not a whole lot of movement, which I didn't really expect to see at this point. I don't want to say your resume is what your resume is going to be, because that's not true, especially with Penn State having Michigan and then Ohio State left to go, and those schools have some big matches to come as well, as do others across the Big Ten and the country. So it's not a full picture at this point. But I guess what my point is that, Braden Davis, if he gets rolled up by Brock Hardy, it's not going to drop. It's not going to send him falling down the rankings because he lost a 4-12 matchup or whatever it was. So, yeah, not a whole lot of movement, not a whole lot of surprise to that. And, again, when most of your guys are at number 1, the only place you can move is down. And when your guys don't lose, it's obviously very difficult to move down.
Yeah. So we'll see how that all shakes out when we get into our Michigan preview, where the bouts where that might happen will shape up this coming weekend. But also this coming weekend, and it makes sense, I'm the football guy, right? That's what everyone knows me as. I come here on the Wrestling Channel, and I let Greg tell everyone what's going on because he is the expert here. But it is the weekend of the big game as well. And the biggest game of the year calls for a boost pack that's just as big. Sponsor here on the YouTube channel, BetMGM is rolling out the big game boost pack. Gives you 3 different ways to boost your odds in your next big game bet. Here's how it works. First, log into the bet to the big game boost pack. Will be waiting for you when you log into the BetMGM app. And next, add any big game bet to your bet slip and activate the boost token when you want to use. Finally, if that bet hits with the token activated, you get extra winnings on top of your payout. How good does that feel? So if you want to add a little bit of excitement to your big game action, biggest game of the year in football, it's the end of the NFL season. Make sure you grab the big game boost pack from BetMGM and make it legendary.
See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, and 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer now for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are not withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossings Casino and Hotel.
It feels a little odd, T. Frank, not having a Penn State wrestling match on Super Bowl Sunday. It's not always the case that it works out that way, but there has been a couple years that it has. And typically when Penn State goes on the road for a Friday night duel, you almost always get the Sunday wraparound double duel weekend. So not this weekend. The Super Bowl, for Penn State fans at least, will take center stage after Friday night's showdown in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, and you get to watch it. You got what do you eat for the Super Bowl? What's your food of choice?
That's usually up to whoever's hosting the party. I just show up and enjoy.
Oh, really?
But no, okay. Yeah, it's going to be, it sounds like to me it's going to be a wing fest. Supposedly there's word of a wing cooking competition. I'm not going to take any part in that, But I will be snacking on some of it during the game, and maybe I will fry up some wings and test them out Friday night during the wrestling match and see if they're worthy of going to the Super Bowl party. It seems unlikely, but you never know. But yeah, it is a great day of football. But before that, we have a great day of wrestling.
Absolutely. So let's get back to it and talk about the preview here for Michigan. What do you see in this game? And let's take us through some of the top matchups you see coming up this weekend on Friday.
Yeah, so another match that Penn State goes into expecting to win pretty handily. I was looking around the internet this morning, did some predictions of my own. We don't got to go through those as in detail as last week because this doesn't figure to be a match where a major decision or a technical fall swings the outcome one way or the other. But, it should be a good match. There's some exciting ones on the card. I believe 5 of them, of the 10, will be top 10 matchups. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily mean as much when you have a guy, and it's not the case, but, when you look at this rundown, when you have a guy like, let me see here, Levi Haynes on the mat against Bo Mantanoa, that's a top 11 matchup, not the greatest example, but that's a top 15 one anyway. Long story short, these are matches where the rankings and the outcome probably won't correlate to what you might expect from matches that are that close in rankings. But anyway, the 2 that I have my eye on, T. Frank, again, at 141, I guess there's 3, 141, Braden Davis and Dylan Ragusin. Ragusin was hurt during the December portion of the 2024-2025 season. He's now back in action, obviously, and bumped up to 141. So he, like Braden Davis, was not on the mat during the first part of the season. So just curious to see how those guys do. Obviously, we'll keep an eye out for Davis's hand and if any issues come of that. So that's one to watch in the first 5, assuming they start at 125 pounds. Then you go to the other side of things, and really fascinated to see what Rocco Welch, the top-ranked wrestler in the country, as we discussed, at 184 pounds, does against Brock Mantanoa of Michigan. He's number 7. Welch has been on a nice little roll, and I'm not entirely sure I see this match playing out by decision, but I am curious. I see Welch winning. How he does so, though, I think will be instructive to his NCAA future possibilities at nationals, so time will tell there. And then in the heavyweight, I mentioned it earlier, T. Frank, you have number 5, Tay Gadilli. I hope I got that right. I don't think I did. But against number 12, Cole Mirasola. Football match notes have pronunciation guides in, and it would be wonderful if college wrestling brought that to their match notes as well.
There's a much more diverse set of name, and origin names from wrestling. Lots of unfamiliar parts of Eastern Europe and Russia and Kazakhstan and all kinds of places where you and I are not used to those names. I totally agree.
He's going to wrestle number 12, Cole Mirasola, like we said earlier. Another test for Cole, a chance to beat a top 5 guy. Here's what's interesting to me about this match, T. Frank. The 2 losses to Christian Cael, and he's from Wyoming, and AJ Ferrari for Cole Mirasola this year were just by decision. And his Michigan opponent, I'm not even going to try and butcher his last name again. I apologize to him and his family. But he lost both of those guys by major decision. And then they have pretty equal common opponent win results from there. So I'm not saying Cole Mirasola is going to win this match, but when you look at a 12-5 and think to yourself he doesn't really have a chance or that he's a big underdog, I don't know. I think obviously Michigan's the favorite going into this match, but it just caught my eye, those results that they have shared this year, and perhaps Cole Mirasola can spring the upset. So I think that's really the only spot in the dual meet lineup, as we expect it to look, that Michigan steals a win. So, you're looking at 35-3, 38-3. I've seen as low, I think, as 33-3 at WrestleStat. But somewhere, I think if you're projecting Penn State in the 30s to Michigan 3, you're probably pretty well aligned across the projection spectrum. But you never know. Time will tell. Obviously, like I said, Penn State could pull out an upset at heavyweight, and perhaps Michigan can pull one off somewhere in the first 9 weight classes. So we shall see, but every expectation, T. Frank, is that Penn State will win its 84th consecutive dual meet. How it goes about doing so, we'll recap that Friday night at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com.
Yeah, you can go sign up right now for BlueWhiteIllustrated.com and get all of our content, including Greg's wrestling coverage. And, of course, if you want to watch our recap next week and see where Greg got it right, where he got it wrong, and we get a recap of what happened at Michigan, you can subscribe here to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. You enjoyed the conversation. Please like the video. Always helps us to spread our wrestling content and conversation. Make sure that we get as many other people here on the YouTube channel talk about wrestling and help grow the audience here for us. Appreciate you. We'll be back next week here with the Penn State Wrestling Show from Blue White Illustrated.